this is Sarah, Painty Creator today, and I'm playing with Highland Cows today. So I've got lots of different features. So this is one that I've just done. I do have the video of it, but not the end bit because my husband rang, so well, never mind. So this is my little sketch that I'm working off, and I'm just trying to do sort of variations on a theme. I find it a nice way of doing things and just sort of resting and relaxing. I'm going to put these sort of rough areas of where the colours are going to go on this one. It may or may not end up like that, but it might, you never know. Yes, I do think Highland Cows are so gorgeous and cute. And I think that's why we're drawn to them. I'm not going to do this big chin, I don't know. I do quite like doing these sort of traceable outlines because it means that I'm not worrying too much about my drawing, and I can just use the energy that I've got to paint, which is great. If you enjoy drawing, then off you go, you do it, you do you, that's fine. But I find it easier to draw it on my iPad, get to what I want and then print them off. And also it means that you can have this as for yourself. So all I've done is put some water soluble graphite on the back, and that just helps me when I transfer. And then the extra graphite I just pick up with my rubber. So it's a pliable rubber, and it just means that I can have a really rough idea of where I'm going without spending too much time worrying about anything else. So today I am working on some Inktense paper. It's 9 by 12 and it's cold pressed, 100% cotton, 300 grams. So it's a really good quality paper. Cold pressed paper's got a slight texture with it. It's not rough and it's not smooth, so that's why it's sometimes called knot paper. Hot press is really good for botanicals, and rough is really good if you're wanting some landscapes or snowscapes with a lot of dry brush on. But my go-to is normally cold pressed paper. I'm also using some Inktense paints today. So these are, I've had them a long time. These are my Inktense paint sets, and they are vibrant like the watercolour inks are, and they become ink, and they stain quite heavily. So don't wear your best clothes for it, but I do like them, and it's a lot of the time. This is why my water brushes come from. Out of these sets, they're really good for going out and about and taking with you, and as you can see, they're quite well used. And of course I'm using my mop brushes, my medium mop brushes. Those of you that have been with me for a while will know that I use these all the time. I love the amount of water that they hold, and I love how responsive they can be. and maybe a fine detail brush, we'll see. Paper towel to control your water, 2 big jars of water, and I always have my big squirty bottle, which is a repurposed Febreze bottle, and my little mister bottle. So I'm using my mister bottle to just wake my paints up, and then we can get painting. If you are after the sketch, then it will be available on my Patreon site. I think you'll be watching this on my Patreon site, so just scroll down and have a look and see what you can find. I normally post up my sketch and a sheet to tell you the process, roughly the colours that I'm using. Obviously this one might be a bit different, but you could use any normal set of watercolours, it will work beautifully as it is. So it's going to be really loose, it's not going to look like a Highland Cow because I want to use lots of colour today. So I'm starting off with just wetting the area around the nose, over the leaving the horns, into the ears, around the eye. Just clean water, plenty of it. There we go, and I'm just going to let that settle into the paper for a little minute. It just lets the paper soak it up. So just like when we wake up our paints, it just lets the just lets everything just sort of wake up nicely and gently. So I'm picking up, I have to look at these colours. So it's a burnt yellow ochre and a little bit of mango. So just for a little undertone. I could always go brighter with thicker paint, but we're going for that sort of Highland Cow look, and it's just the first colour. I'm going to purposefully splatter some outside the lines, because otherwise when I'm painting like this I end up painting too tight and it spoils the painting. So I'm just going to add a little bit more of the mango, sort of it's like an orangey yellow into it. So we've got another layer just going in a bit brighter on this right hand side. I've gone over where my eye is going again. Did that before, never mind. And a little splatter. That's nice. A bit more intensive. Just going to pick up that that's on there a little bit. At this moment I wanted it loose and to see what's going on. So whilst it's still wet we can work into it. I'm just going to go in with a bit more of like an orangey colour, sort of an orange mangoey mix, just for a little bit of difference in tone. Trying to sort of follow some of these outliney bits. they will, just like other watercolour paints, they will soften and dry lighter. But whilst you are, whilst it's wet, you can work into it and sort of see what's going on. So today I'm on the brightness, so I'm just going to go and flick with some clean water into there. So on this side I'm wanting some cooler colours, so I'm going to go with like a turquoisey greeny blue colour again. Because without the shadow colours you don't really see the vibrancy of the other colours. And again, I'm going to darken those. So it's just a turquoise and a bright blue. Shadow under that nose and into the ear. A little bit into some there. Bit of a splash. I'm trying to just get that to run a little bit. There we go. And mop it up. So I'm going to drop some of that shadow colour into this ear. And it looks a bit odd at the moment, which it probably is, but I'm enjoying the colours working on the page, and I'm enjoying this sort of cooler and less orangey side. And just like all of the watercolours, you can, whilst it's wet, you can work into it, and once it's drying, you need to sort of leave it alone a little bit. Just going to go back in with a little bit more of this bright yellow, yellowy orange. Okay, so I'm going around this nose now so that I've got the shape of the nose at the top. I'm going to drop some of that bright yellow into that space, just for a little bit of highlight. And then we're going to give it a spritz for here, see if I can get that to run down a little bit more. There we go. And then I'm going to let that go to a dull finish. And when it's at a dull finish, I'm going to go in with my spritzer bottle and just add a little bit of texture on there. Just taking out a little bit, because I want the vibrancy to be up here. So I'll call that a little puddle. I don't really want that to run. Paper towel's your best friend. So I'm just going to watch paint dry for a little bit, and then I can go in with my spritzer bottle, but it has to be a dull sheen. It's got to have gone off. It's still a little bit too wet, so I'm just going to have a minute or two, and then I'll be back. So I've just waited a few minutes and the sheen's gone off the paper, so I'm going to go in with my spritzer bottle. Basically from about the big bottle from about 30 centimetres away, and it just adds a bit of light and texture into your wash, and we're going to let that dry quite naturally. So for the horns, I'm thinking that a brownie colour might set them off quite nicely. A darker brown maybe. So I'm going for let me just grab a little bit of scrap paper. So a purpley browny colour for these bits. Yeah, that's nice. So for this one I'm just painting straight on. And then a little bit on the top, like my brush. I'm just going to soften that with a little bit of water. It will work. And then I'm just going to drop in a little bit of yellow ochre into that wash. Tap, tap, tap. Wash it away a little bit there. And I'm liking that sort of harmony between darken that bit. Okay, same again. Oops. Quite a lot of water on my brush. I'm liking it just going into this drying wash. A little bit of that yellow ochre in. It's the darker side. And pick up this purple again. Yep, liking that. Liking this run that we've got. If you don't like a run and it's going too far, just get your brush and lift any beads out and it'll stop. But that to me just builds a little bit of depth in there. And I'm probably going to use this sort of purpley colour, purpley browny colour in his nose or her nose. Again, just for a little bit of harmony. So I'm just on my small mop brush still, just wetting around the nose. Need to be careful that it doesn't just go blists into this drying wash, particularly at the top, but hopefully it's dry enough to work with. We'll soon see. So a little bit of this purpley shadowy colour. Dropping in. Bit more purple. Okay, so just like we had here, I want a cooler colour on this left hand side, so I'm just going to add a little bit of this blue. Still quite vibrant, but it's cooler. Water. Going into that wash. I might just stop and give it a dry because I don't really want it to run too much. Okay, so I sort of rescued the nose a little bit. I quite like it. I like this little bit. It's just got a bit of a shadow. So we can carry on with those colours. Building up a little bit of the texture of the nose and the sort of definition with another layer. So this is the sort of shadow bit of the nose. So we've got a bit like a dog's nose, or really. And I'm just going to soften that back with a bit of water. A bit darker around this bit. It's just a black and the blue together. It's going into the darker wash. And soften that away with some water. So any hard lines that you don't like, you just soften with some water while it's damp. Oh, that's quite nice, quite like that one. Okay, so that's drying. It's still bouncy. It's all being left to dry naturally. So I'm going to just put a little bit of texture into the ears. So just using the same colours that I've already got in, just to add a little bit of texture. And some shadow. And the same here, a little bit of texture. A little shadow space. Add a little bit, something there, and just because I can, I'm just going to give another bit of a splash down here. whatever was on my brush. Because I do find that keeping the looseness is really important when I'm working like this. So now I've got to think about where I might want a little bit more definition of a bit of hair, or so I'm going in with, so this is just a mixture of the mango and purple. Wash my brush, plenty of water on my brush. I'm just going to soften those away. And I'm thinking I might have another one around here. So it's still quite a lot of water on my brush. But just building a little bit of a sense of tone. So I'm painting like the shadow underneath, and then plenty of water, just washing that bottom edge away into the paper. This is called negative painting because we're painting the shadows, we're not painting where the fur is. And it does take a little bit of time, but it's also quite therapeutic as well. So I'm just using these sort of yellowy, purpley colours, lots of water in there, just picking out where you might want a bit of a shadow coming, or the idea of a just some clean water and wash it away. A bit of a one coming down here. And dropping in a little bit of this nice orange. into the mix. Plenty of water, wash it away. Remember, this will dry lighter just like your standard normal watercolours. So just a bit of dry brush work there. Add in a few marks as if they've got some that are just coming down here. Don't want to go too far with them because I want the focus to remain on the head, not onto the body. So I've mixed up a bit more of a dark, controlled on my paper towel. So it's still quite watery. I'm just going to add some shadows into this bit that we've just done. So as you can see from this part, it's quite watery what I'm using, but the shadows help create the sort of shagginess of the wee beastie. If you're thinking they're a bit hard, just wash them away. Just going to add a little bit of brightness onto that one. So all you're doing is you're building up the shadows and bright layers. I'm just using the same colours but just layering up. So whilst I've got that really pale shadow colour, I'm just going to drop a little bit. You can see how pale it is into the nostrils. Just another layer across the nose. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of shadow texture onto these horns. It's just like a top glaze. I've mixed a bit of a darker mix there. I'm just going to darken some areas here. You can see them softening in because that is still damp. feel myself tightening up again, so I'm going to do another splatter. Get that turquoise going up here, I think. Yeah, like that. And I'm going to get a bit of that purpley bluey colour up there as well. Oh, I like that on the horn really well. Okay, so I'm just going to let this settle and then I will dry it off with a hairdryer. So I've not actually touched any of this with a hairdryer yet, but I'm quite enjoying that sort of gentle paste work, and I want to just pop an eye or two peeping out somehow. Okay, so I'm going with my really fine brush and just some black. Straight from the palette, and I'm just going to add a little PP eye. Because it is ink, it will go on top, which is really nice. Just trying to balance up. Okay, that's quite nice. So you could just leave it there. I'm going to go in with another layer of colours just to sort of balance up. And get a feeling of that eye being covered. So I'm just using that sort of base colour, plenty of water. Wash it away. I actually noticed that this is straight, so I'm going to go in with a little bit more paint here. It really shouldn't be straight. Bit of a splash. And it's the sort of thing that you notice yourself when you're painting, but other people really don't. So going in with lots of water, and then I'm just going to let the water take his sort of shaggy dog. Hold your brush far down. Okay, I'm going to probably leave it at that. I'm just flicking some clean water, dab up there, bit of dab in there, lift up. Nice. So for these I'm going back in with some ink pen. You don't have to. This, you know, it's nice enough as it is. Might need a little bit of a mouth. Right, I need to step away from it now because otherwise I'm going to put in far too much colour and it will spoil it. So I'm going to walk away, let it dry, and then I'll be back with you. Okay, so we're dry enough that I can work on it, and I'm going to use my Faber-Castell India ink permanent pens. They're sort of draftsman's pens that are flat at the base, but they are great for adding a little bit of character. And we're not outlining in that sort of classic sense. We're trying to sort of get a feel for this wee beastie. And if you're not confident with it, you can always do it in pencil first, but I quite like a bit of ink on top of watercolour. If you don't like it, then don't do it. Is where I'm at. But I think it's quite good fun. So I'm resisting the temptation to go too far down, and I'm just using it as a way of enhancing and playing with those sort of lovely details that are on our Highland Cow. And I'm not sure there's a right way and a wrong way to do this. But remember, it's enhancing what you've got. then a little tiny bit of gouache, I think, for this one. Just a little bit of white gouache. I'll take it out the lid because it's easier just to put a bit of a glint in the eye. Maybe a little bit of a highlight up here. Again, you could just use a gel pen if you're thinking, I'm not confident. I'm just going to put a bit of a highlight at the top of these nostrils as well. So there we go, I'm going to call that one a day. Having a lot of fun playing with this sort of template and seeing what I can create today in just short bursts of under an hour paint time. Like, obviously it takes a bit longer, but I hope you've enjoyed that, and thank you for supporting me on my Patreon site. It means the world to me, and opens the world to others, which is really nice.